Yesterday, Stephen Hawking died at the age of 76 years old. If you don't know who Stephen Hawking was, he was a theoretical physicist and cosmologist that drastically advanced our understanding of the cosmos and theoretical physics. So why am I talking about him on this channel? Well, I believe that Stephen Hawking was an exceptional example to all of us of how to overcome obstacles and just become better at what we do. He had some extremely difficult circumstances, and he turned that into a life of progress and contribution. So I'm going to give you a short history of Stephen Hawking and his accomplishments, and we'll talk about his disease and how he coped with that and became such a prominent figure in the scientific community. So at age 21, Stephen Hawking was diagnosed with ALS. If you're not familiar with that, it's a neurological degenerative disease that basically breaks down your ability for motor function. So typically people lose the ability to walk, speak, clothe themselves, feed themselves, and they become what some people have called a prisoner in their own body. So at 21 years old, Stephen Hawking was diagnosed with this terrible disease, and he was actually told that he had about 2 years to live. So fast forward those 2 years, and when he was supposed to be dying, he was making a name for himself in the theoretical physics community by asserting that the Big Bang began as a singularity. At 32, he coined what's now called the Hawking radiation theory, which is that black holes, and I don't want to get too far into the science here, that's not the purpose of this discussion, but that theory says that black holes are able to reduce mass by emitting electromagnetic radiation. He also asserted that you can measure the size of a black hole if you can measure the speed at which that radiation leaves the black hole. The lower the velocity of the radiation, the higher the mass of the black hole. Okay, now fast forward to 46 years old. He's now double the age he was told he would live to be, and he writes a book called A Brief History of Time. This book becomes a bestseller and stays on the bestseller list for 237 weeks, which is actually a Guinness record. The book sold 10 million copies and was translated into 40 different languages. Now, I want to put this in perspective. At the time that he published that book, which was 1988, his disease had progressed to the point where he could not speak. Now, let me qualify that. He actually lost his speech because of a complication where he had to have a tracheotomy 3 years prior in 1985. Nevertheless, he could not speak, couldn't write, he couldn't type, but he wrote a book that became a bestseller and stayed a bestseller for 237 weeks. Now, I did some research, and the best I could find out, he was able to speak at about 15 words a minute. So the fastest that he could produce literature would be 15 words a minute. I can type at about 100 words a minute. I'm 32 years old, and I have written 0 books. So this makes me realize that he was overcoming incredible obstacles to achieve what he achieved. In fact, in his life, he wrote a total of 15 books and co-authored many more. So the amount of time he spent doing that and just the arduous work involved in transcribing his thoughts into written word would be incredible. Now, how was he doing that? He wasn't able to speak with his vocal cords. He had a little box that he would hold, and he would press the box to cycle through word options in an application. And he'd have a screen in front of him and then a voice synthesizer that would speak the words that he picked. The amount of work that he did to create these books that are now considered some of the best scientific books of our time, it's amazing, and it's something that we should all strive for, to get past our own inhibitions and our own obstacles and create something new and help other people and educate people. Just be better humans. Stop letting our own disabilities or just small obstacles get in our way, because what obstacle do I have or do you have that amounts to anything close to what Stephen Hawking dealt with in his life? Very few people have to deal with the level of difficulty that he dealt with, and to see what he created is just incredibly motivating. So to Stephen Hawking, I say, thank you for everything you contributed to this world, and rest in peace. And I want to close out by sharing a couple of quotes from Stephen Hawking that I found to be pretty impactful. The first is from 2010. He says, "Never give up work. Work gives you meaning and purpose, and life is empty without it." I think that's really valuable, because a lot of times I get caught up in distractions and I forget about the work. But the most fulfilling thing for me is when I create something new. The second one is, "I have lived with the prospect of an early death for the last 49 years. I'm not afraid of death, but I'm in no hurry to die. I have so much I want to do first. That was in 2011 that he said that. Even at that point in his life, he had so much that he wanted to contribute to the world. It's fascinating to see that kind of spirit in a person. That's where I'm going to wrap it up today, guys. I will put a link in the description to the book I mentioned, A Brief History of Time, if you want to go check that out. Thanks for watching this video, and I will see you tomorrow.